Hi viewers, you're watching Sansad Television and this is the news with me, Rashika Gangwani. Before we take a detailed look at the top stories of the day, here are the headlines. Protesters force President Gotabaya Rajapaksa out of his official residence in Sri Lanka. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe announces resignation. Death toll in cloudburst near Amarnath cave reaches 16. Many people still missing. Rescue teams evacuate 15,000 pilgrims. Home Minister Amit chairs North Zonal Council meeting. Discussion held on many issues including internal security. Demand for national project status to East Rajasthan Canal project. President Ramnath Kovind addresses youth conference. Says nation's future depends on the enterprise of youth. Nation mourns death of former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Quad leaders pay tribute. Recall Abe's contribution towards bringing peace and prosperity to Indo-Pacific region. Let us now take a look at some more important news in our flash segment. Prime Minister Modi to address natural farming conclave through video conferencing on Sunday. Conclave is being organized at Surat in Gujarat. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu calls new national education policy a very good step in the right direction. Calls for its proper implementation in letter and spirit. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar visits Japan embassy to condole death of former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Says Abe symbolized the growth in India-Japan relationship in the last 2 decades. Prime Minister Modi to inaugurate development projects worth over 16,000 crore rupees, including the Deoghar International Airport in Jharkhand on Tuesday. President, Vice President greet people on the eve of Eid al-Zuha. Festival a symbol of sacrifice and service to the humanity, says President Kovind. Union Minister Jitendra Singh lauds Panchayati Raj institutions, says their representatives are essential messengers of PM's welfare schemes. Central Consumer Protection Authority CCPA directs district collectors to enforce guidelines on service tax by hotels and restaurants. International Film Festival of India should promote business of cinema to benefit film industry and boost India's creativity economy, asserts INB Minister Anurag Thakur. US Consulate wants Russian ships banned from Mumbai coast. Shipping Ministry asked MEA to intervene. Elon Musk says he will abandon his $44 billion offer to buy Twitter due to company's number of fake accounts. Twitter says it will sue the Tesla CEO to uphold the deal. On a day when Sri Lankan Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe announced his resignation, thousands of anti-government protests stormed President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's official residence in central Colombo. The president was moved out of his residence on Friday in anticipation of the protest. His whereabouts are unknown. Here are more details.
Sri Lankan police fired tear gas at protesters on Saturday who were demanding that President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and his government resign over the country's worst economic crisis in recent memory. Thousands of protesters carrying Sri Lankan flags rode on the relatively few vehicles on the roads due to the acute fuel shortage. Others rode bicycles and many walked to protest sites in the capital, Colombo, after police lifted an overnight curfew. They broke through the barricades at the high-security fort area. At least 30 people, including 2 policemen, were injured in clashes with the protesters. Rajapaksa is facing calls for resignation since March. He was using the president's house as his residence and office since April, when protesters came to occupy the entrance to his office. A group of his own parliamentarians have addressed a letter to him, urging him to step down and appoint a new prime minister and an all-party government. A viral video on social media showed a VIP motorcade at the Colombo International Airport, where a Sri Lanka Airlines aircraft was parked. Amid the turmoil, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe on Saturday summoned an emergency meeting of all political parties and also requested the Speaker to summon Parliament. The anti-government protests in April had forced the resignation of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, the elder brother of President Rajapaksa, in May. The protesters also clashed with railway authorities in the towns of Gaul, Kandy and Matara as the demonstrators forced authorities to operate trains to Colombo. Protesters said they will not relent until Rajapaksa quits the presidency. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
We are further joined by Sangha Abeguna from Washington, D.C. on the current situation in Sri Lanka. Sir, tell us what is the latest situation in Colombo and where is President Rajapaksa?
Well, the situation is completely out of control right now. You can see there were 71 people have been injured. Several journalists have been attacked. It is, people storming the president's office, the residence, and you have a government resigning. So President Rajapaksa has been, taken to the military protection. So he's under military protection.
So where are the protests headed and how does the political class, including the ruling party and the opposition, see a resolution of the crisis?
Well, they would have to form a multi-party government and immediately, bring in political stability, or the anarchic situation will continue in the country. With the present economic status of the country, there could be many deaths and a huge humanitarian crisis will come into the country. So immediate political stability. The next leader who has the most number of seats is the opposition leader in the parliament. So you would have to give, leadership as well as bring in all parties together and listen to the protesters' demands from the beginning. What they were saying.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Asanga. Now moving on, rescue teams have shifted over 15,000 stranded pilgrims to the lower base camp of Panchtarni after Friday's flash flood triggered by heavy rain near the Amarnath cave shrine. At least 65 injured people were rushed to hospitals after landslides buried tents and community kitchens. The death toll rose to 16 on Saturday as search operations continued without a break over fears that many are still trapped under the debris. At least 35 pilgrims have been discharged after treatment. According to the Army, mountain rescue teams and lookout patrols with high-tech equipment and sniffer dogs have been deployed for the search and rescue operations. An Mi-17 chopper of the BSF's air wing has been pressed into service. The Jammu and Kashmir administration has also deployed advanced light helicopters for rescue operations. Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha visited the injured in the hospital. He instructed the doctors to take proper care of the patients. The annual pilgrimage that started on 30th of June was suspended after the tragedy. A decision on its resumption will be taken after rescue operations get over. The injured are being treated at the Neelkant camp in Sonamarg. An integrated command center has been set up under the charge of the Divisional Commissioner of Kashmir. Helpline numbers have been established in Anantnag in South Kashmir, Srinagar and in Delhi for families of pilgrims to know about the well-being of their kin. Heavy rains have claimed 12 lives in Karnataka since the 1st of this month. Many low-lying areas have been submerged in the coastal districts of Karnataka and Malnar. The Meteorological Department has said that heavy rains will continue for the next 3 to 4 days. Chief Minister Baswaraj Bommai chaired a meeting to review the situation in 13 rain-affected districts. Officials in districts bordering Maharashtra have been asked to keep in touch regarding release of water from dams. Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma said 30 to 40,000 houses have been damaged by the recent floods in the state. In a meeting with Union Home Minister Amit Shah, Sarma has sought financial help from the National Disaster Response Fund to help the flood-affected people. Water bodies in Telangana remained in spate at many places due to heavy rains on Saturday. The Weather Department said that Navipet in Nizamabad district received 23 centimeters of rain. People in low-lying areas faced waterlogging due to the rains while reservoirs were overflowing in Nizamabad and Kamareddy districts. The North Zonal Council, chaired by Union Home Minister Amit Shah, met in Jaipur on Saturday. The meeting discussed internal security, road transport, industry, water, electricity, among other issues. The meeting was attended by Chief Ministers of Rajasthan Ashok Gehlot, Haryana Manohar Lal Khattar, Himachal Pradesh Jairam Thakur, Lieutenant Governors of Ladakh Radhakrishna Mathur, Delhi Vinay Kumar, the Punjab Governor and Chandigarh Administrator Banwari Lal Purohit and senior leaders were also present. The Indian flag flew at half-mast on Saturday at all government institutions across the country, as a one-day national mourning was observed as a mark of the deepest respect for former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Here are more details.
Paying tribute to close friend, former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, Prime Minister Modi expressed unbearable pain at his passing away after being felled by an assassin's bullet on Friday.
मेरे घनिष्ठ मित्र और जापान के पूर्व प्रधानमंत्री श्री शिंजो आबे अब हमारे बीच नहीं रहे हैं.
Modi called Abe a reliable friend of India and the one who will remain in the hearts of Indians for years.
उनके कार्यकाल में भारत जापान में उनके जो राजनीतिक संबंध थे हमारे, वो को नई ऊंचाई तो मिली ही. हमने दोनों देशों की साझी विरासत से जुड़े रिश्तों को भी खूब आगे बढ़ाया.
On Friday, Modi wrote a blog in memory of Abe. In a rare gesture, Prime Minister Modi, US President Joe Biden, and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese issued a joint statement on Saturday, mourning the death of Japanese leader Shinzo Abe. They recalled his contribution to the formation of the Quad and efforts towards a free and open Indo-Pacific. The leaders of the Quad pledged to redouble their work to ensure a peaceful and a prosperous Indo-Pacific to honor Abe's memory and described him as a transformative leader for Japan and its relations with each of the three countries. NDA presidential nominee Draupadi Murmu cancelled her scheduled visit to Kolkata on Saturday to meet BJP lawmakers from West Bengal in the wake of the one-day national mourning for former Japanese Premier Shinzo Abe. Her visit is likely to be rescheduled at a later date. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
Japan and the world is mourning the death of Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Japanese media reported that a night vigil will be held for the slain Japanese premier on Monday, and his funeral will be held on Tuesday.
The body of former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe arrived in his home city, Tokyo, in a black hearse. Members of his ruling Liberal Democratic Party and other mourners lined up to pay their last respects. Abe was shot in the chest during an election campaign in the city of Nara in western Japan on Friday. He was airlifted to a hospital but succumbed to his injuries. His autopsy revealed that the bullet that entered Abe's upper left arm damaged arteries beneath both collarbones, causing fatal massive bleeding. The attacker, 41-year-old Tetsuya Yamagami, was arrested on the spot. He is a former member of the Japanese Navy. He told the police that he killed Abe because he believed that Abe was connected to a religious organization that he resented. The assassination of Japan's longest-serving Prime Minister has profoundly shocked the country with very strict gun laws. Current Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has ordered enhanced security for cabinet ministers and other political leaders ahead of the parliamentary elections on Sunday. The shooting has also sent shockwaves across the world. Leaders from Turkey to Singapore condemned the attack. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and the French Foreign Ministry called the shooting despicable. UN Secretary General termed it horrific and Spanish Prime Minister called it cowardly. US President Joe Biden had a telephonic conversation with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida to pay his condolences. In a message, Chinese President Xi Jinping credited Abe with making efforts to improve Japan-China relations. Mark of tribute. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
It's time for a short break. On the other side, British Indian Rishi Sunak emerges as the early frontrunner in UK leadership race.
company set the tenor and the tone for Make in India initiatives, at least in the defense sector.
This has always been the DNA of Bharat. We have always done things for the future. 2014 was the turning point with this whole concept of Make in India. When we first showed our gun in 2012, a lot of general officers walked by our booth. DRDO took an interest and said, let us develop an indigenous gun. The whole Atmanirbhar Bharat movement is something that has created a spark with many, many Indians.
Watch our special presentations in The Defenders only on Sansad TV.
इतिहास लिखना कोई ये नहीं है कि इतिहास किसी पिंडारे में पड़ा हुआ है और उसको बाहर निकाल करके आपने इतिहास बता दिया। जी, इतिहास लिखना एक वैज्ञानिक प्रक्रिया है, ये स्रोतों के ऊपर आधारित है।
जो इतिहास होता है, जो इतिहासकार होते हैं, उसे गलत तरीके से इंटरप्रिटेट करते हैं। तो सर, ये कहाँ तक सही है और इसे कैसे रोका जा सकता है?
इतिहास अंततः व्याख्या है, तथ्यों की व्याख्या है। तो जिस प्रकार से तथ्यों की निर्मित होगी वैसी व्याख्या होगी।
अगर इतिहास लिखना है तो उसकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी कौन लेगा?
इतिहास वो लिखेंगे जिनको इतिहास लिखने का क्राफ्ट आता है।
भारत का इतिहास भारतीय दृष्टिकोण से समझा ही नहीं गया, इसलिए सारी भ्रांतियां हमारे सामने आती हैं।
Welcome back after the break. You're watching the news. Now time for some other global updates. British Indian Rishi Sunak formally launched his campaign to be elected the new Conservative Party leader and UK Prime Minister. On Saturday, he emerged as an early frontrunner in the leadership race. 42-year-old Rishi Sunak, the son-in-law of Infosys co-founder Narayana Murthy, received public backing of several senior Conservative MPs to take over as Boris Johnson's successor. Pro-Brexit Sunak is seen as a candidate who can unite the divided governing party. As a former chancellor, he is also reported to be the best placed to take on the economic challenges facing UK. His position became even stronger as a potential front-runner. UK Defence Secretary Ben Wallace formally ruled himself out of the race. Now some more news across the world. Greece and Hungary are the worst hit by inflation in Europe. Annual inflation rate in Greece touched 12.1%, while it was 11.7% in Hungary. Latest data showed the main reason was the rise in energy cost over the past year. Natural gas prices went up 117.7% in Greece and electricity to 70.4%. The UN Security Council failed to reach consensus to provide humanitarian aid to Syria. Two competing drafts were tabled, one for Norway that was vetoed by Russia and another version by Russia that failed to get enough votes to pass. The cross-border mechanism currently in place expires on 10th of July 2022. The 15-member Security Council is to continue negotiations to see if an agreement can be reached. Argentina imposed restrictions on imports to stop the dollar drain from central bank reserves. The import restrictions have affected other non-intended products, further increasing inflation that is already over 60%. Argentina's debt of $44 billion was recently reconstructed with the International Monetary Fund. Angloans mourned the passing away of Dos Santos, one of Africa's longest-serving rulers. Santos ruled Angola for nearly 4 decades. He died at a clinic in Barcelona following a long illness at the age of 79. Dos Santos fought the continent's longest civil war and turned his country into a major oil producer and miner of diamonds. He voluntarily stepped down when his health began failing. The first day of Eid was celebrated in some parts of the world. Among them were Afghanistan, Egypt, Israel, and Saudi Arabia. Eid al-Adha, known as the Feast of Sacrifice, commemorates what Muslims believe was Prophet Ibrahim's test of faith. Pilgrims stoned the devil on the occasion to signify overcoming of temptation in the village of Mina in Saudi Arabia. Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla has urged all parties to cooperate in the smooth running of the upcoming session of the Parliament. The monsoon session is beginning from 18th of July. Proceedings will continue till the 12th of August.
इस सत्र के अंदर कई महत्वपूर्ण विषयों पर चर्चा होगी, संवाद होगी। मैंने सभी दलों से आग्रह किया है संसद का सत्र सुचारू रूप से चले, संसद चर्चा संवाद का केंद्र बने, लोगों की अपेक्षाएं आकांक्षाएं पूरी हो, इसके लिए मैंने सभी दलों के नेताओं से आग्रह किया है। मुझे आशा है संसद का सत्र सुचारू रूप से चलेगा।
Maharashtra Chief Minister Eknath Shinde and Deputy Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis are on their first visit to Delhi after the change of leadership in the state. Both leaders called on President Ramnath Kovind at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. They also met Prime Minister Modi. The Eknath Shinde-led government won the trust vote in Maharashtra on 4th of July. Shinde and Fadnavis later called on Defence Minister Rajnath Singh at his residence in Delhi. They also had a meeting with BJP National President JP Nadda at his residence. India will top the list of countries with the world's youngest population by 2030, President Ramnath Kovind said on Saturday. He also urged the youth to make maximum contribution to the progress and development of the country. Addressing a youth conference in New Delhi, the president expressed happiness that India's youth are making a new identity in the world. He highlighted that Indian youth have made significant achievements in all fields, including medicine, technology and IT.
Education, tourism, gaming, hospitality, data management and analytics आदि जैसे क्षेत्रों में स्टार्टअप्स के माध्यम से एक नई क्रांति आई है। आज का युवा जॉब सीकर से जॉब क्रिएटर बनने के पथ पर अग्रसर है। यह एक ऐसी पहल है जिसे संपूर्ण विश्व में सराहा जा रहा है।
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu on Saturday underscored need for efforts on ensuring women empowerment and their education. He was addressing the Platinum Jubilee celebrations of Mount Carmel College, Bengaluru. The Vice President said women have always proved themselves when given opportunities. He also appealed to people to follow their religion and not play with the religious beliefs of others.
We must move away from the rote learning to active learning. It's an opportune time to break the rigidity of watertight compartmentalization of the subjects. Interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary are the way forward. Education institutions must equip our youth with the right skills to make them not just employable but also catalysts of new India's growth story.
And in other national news, NDA leaders are meeting in Delhi on 10th of July before the presidential elections. The meeting is expected to discuss the NDA strategy for the presidential election. The Union Home Ministry has constituted a 3-member commission for the delimitation of municipal wards in Delhi. Delhi State Election Commissioner Vijay Kumar Dev has been appointed chairman of the commission. 18,840 new cases of COVID-19 have been reported in the last 24 hours. The number of patients under treatment has increased to 1,25,028. The national rate of recovery is touching 98.51%. CBI officials conducted searches at the residence of Congress leader Karti Chidambaram in Chennai. The action was reportedly connected to the Chinese visa case. Employment in electric vehicle sector has grown by 108% in the last 2 years. A survey conducted by CIEL HR Services said EV companies had hired 2,236 employees in the last 6 months. Now time for all the sporting action. Starting with tennis, Elena Rybakina is the new Wimbledon women's singles champion. 17th seed Rybakina beat 3rd seed Ons Jabeur in the final. Rybakina came from a set behind to win 3-6, 6-2, 6-2 in the final. In tennis, Novak Djokovic will play Nick Kyrgios in the final of the Wimbledon Championships on Sunday. In the semi-finals, Djokovic defeated Britain's Cameron Norrie 2-6, 6-3, 6-2, 6-4. Kyrgios got a bye in the semi-finals as Rafael Nadal had to withdraw due to injury. In cricket, India have set a target of 171 for England to win the second T20 international being played at Birmingham. Ravindra Jadeja top scored for India with 46 of 29 balls. India struck with Bhuvneshwar dismissing both the openers and Bumrah taking the wicket of Livingstone. England were 36 for 3 a short while back. In badminton, HS Pranoy's impressive run at the Malaysia Masters tournament hit a roadblock as he slipped to a 3-game loss against Hong Kong in Kalong Agnes in the men's singles semi-final. Pranoy went down 21-17, 9-21, 17-21. Indian women will play a crossover match against Spain on Sunday. The winner of the match will seal the quarter-final slot and meet Australia for a place in the semi-final. That's all we have in today's news. For more updates, keep watching Sansad Television. Good night.